You walk into a house, your whole family's murdered, and you're just, I didn't do it. Why would I do it?
Nick Browning and his three friends arrived at Nick's home, only to discover a chilling scene of murder that shocked them to their core. The four 15-year-olds, including Ryan Fingels, Taylor Tewksbury, Alexander Smith, and Nick Browning, had spent time together at the mall before returning to Nick's affluent Baltimore suburb house in February 2008. Upon entering, they found signs of a possible burglary, but the grim reality was far worse. Join us as we find out what had actually happened. At just before 5 p.m., a distressing 911 call alerted authorities to a grim scene. A 45-year-old man lays lifeless on the couch, with blood emanating from his nose, unresponsive and not breathing. Officers arrived promptly and discovered the lifeless body of Nicholas's father, John, in a ground-floor room. Upstairs, in separate bedrooms, they tragically found the lifeless remains of his mother, Tamara, and his two younger brothers, Gregory, 13, and Benjamin, 11. Alongside these heartbreaking discoveries, the officers also located the firearm believed to be involved. The boys were immediately taken to the police station to provide statements, their accounts being critical in the early stages of the investigation. The detective interviews all three boys, but when he comes to Nick, the detective purposefully positions himself closer to Nick, ensuring direct eye contact, a tactic aimed at encouraging truthfulness by making it challenging to lie when someone is in close proximity. The detective initiates the conversation by prompting Nick to recount the events of the past day and a half without timestamps, allowing Nick to provide his version of the story, which the police intend to scrutinize for inconsistencies. On the night of the murders, these four boys were staying at Ryan's house. Nick also confirms going to his house to take the car keys and having found the lights turned on. The boys provide their accounts, with some variations and inconsistencies regarding Nick's concerns about not hearing from his family. The detective strategically inquires about Nick's phone calls to compare their statements with potential phone records, aiming to uncover any discrepancies that could be used to ascertain the truth about the events leading up to the discovery of the murder. The detectives employed various strategies to elicit a confession from Nick. Initially, they insinuated that his friends had implicated him, suggesting his dad's anger. They then appealed to his emotions by repeatedly showing him a family photo, highlighting his previous falsehoods. After about 6 hours of interrogation, he admitted to the murders after police found inconsistencies in his story. On Friday night, Nicholas left his friend's house and went to his after everyone was asleep. He shot each one of them dead using one of his father's guns in his home. Not only this, after the bloody rampage, he threw the handgun in the bushes near his house. Baltimore County Circuit Judge Thomas J. Bollinger handed down a sentencing of 2 consecutive life terms to 16-year-old Browning. This implies that, with good behavior, he might become eligible for parole in 23 years. In court, Browning was too overwhelmed with emotion to personally deliver an apology to his relatives, so his attorney conveyed it on his behalf. The statement expressed his deep desire to alleviate their pain. Supporting Browning, a group of his relatives, including grandparents, aunts, and uncles, stood by his side. They penned letters appealing to Bollinger for leniency and corroborating assertions of Browning enduring parental abuse. "I have no doubt that Nick was mentally and physically abused for most of his life, and that Tammy chose to become an enabler during the last few years of her life," wrote Harold Wagoner, Browning's maternal grandfather. The stark contrast between the portrayals of Browning by prosecutors and defense attorneys raises an enduring question that lingers even after Browning's guilty plea in October for 4 counts of murder. Was he a remorseless killer who schemed to secure a substantial inheritance? Or, as argued by the defense, a victimized teenager who tragically acted out due to his circumstances?